marry him, marry him, marry him. Around me, the voices of strangers cheered me on, urging me with every shout. I stared at the man in front of me, holding up a ring. In that moment, I felt like the happiest person in the world. Though the proposal wasn't anything like the romantic scenes I had imagined countless times. There were no elaborate arrangements. Instead, after the party ended, as we walked home, he casually pulled a ring out of his pocket and asked me if I would marry him. But him proposing was enough to make me feel thrilled. Because I had waited for this day for 5 years. I held my wildly beating heart, fighting back tears, but they still slipped out. I do. I reached out my hand, hoping he would slip the ring onto my finger. In my mind, I already imagined us, after marriage, growing old together, supporting each other through life. But when I said, I do, Jeffrey just smirked at me, not putting the ring on my finger. Seeing that smile, it felt like all the blood in my body had frozen. He always wore that smile whenever he was up to something bad. But this was a proposal, not something to joke about. Suddenly, laughter erupted from the crowd. I instinctively turned my head, and a few familiar figures emerged from behind the crowd. When I saw them, and the mocking expressions on their faces, the tears of joy on mine only made me seem more ridiculous. Haha, I knew she'd cry. Jeffrey, you lost, the car's mine now. Crystal ignored me completely and, right in front of me, affectionately reached into Jeffrey's pants pocket to take out the car keys. Jeffrey, as usual, indulged her. You could just take the car if you wanted it. Why make a whole fuss, betting like this? That's not the same. Winning the bet makes it feel more rewarding. Crystal spoke with pride in her eyes, not in a way that challenged me, but as if showing off. Showing off Jeffrey's special treatment of her. So, you proposed to me because of a bet with her? Just for a car? I don't know how I managed to stay so calm after realizing how I'd been played. I just wanted to know what the man in front of me, who hadn't even spared me a glance ever since Crystal appeared, really thought about this proposal. This isn't just some junk car. It's the limited edition Jeffrey just bought. Slap. Before Crystal could finish her sentence, I slapped her across the face. Shut up, I didn't ask you. You don't get to speak. I warned her coldly. Edwina, you're going too far. Jeffrey quickly stepped in front of her, shielding her from me, his brows furrowed in anger. Apologize to Crystal. Ugh, Jeffrey, my face hurts so much. Crystal held her cheek, tears immediately streaming down her face, looking pitiful. How can you just hit someone like that? Look at Crystal's face, it's swollen. No one's ever touched her before, and you think a simple apology will do? Yeah, you owe her at least 10 slaps. Otherwise, this won't end. Even if you're Jeffrey's girlfriend, we won't let you off. The men who had been with Crystal when they came out of the crowd suddenly got loud and started shouting at me, demanding I repay them tenfold. Jeffrey looked at Crystal's slap mark with a pained expression, but didn't say anything to stop them. Jeffrey, you still haven't answered my question. I ignored their anger. Right now, I only wanted one answer. An answer that would help me let go of this man I'd loved for 5 years. He sighed impatiently, it was just a joke, you're overreacting. You really don't understand. You need to apologize to Crystal, and if she doesn't forgive you, then... Joke? Go to hell with your apology. 5 years of my life wasted. Jeffrey, we're done. Not only did I slap her, I'll slap you too. With that, I kicked him squarely between the legs. That kick landed Jeffrey in the hospital. His friends rushed to carry him to the car, still shouting threats at me as they left, saying Jeffrey was the only child in his family. If I'd hurt him, I wouldn't be able to stay in a city, and forget about marrying Jeffrey. After making their threats, they insisted I go to the hospital with them and wait for Jeffrey's family to arrive so I could explain myself. To put it bluntly, these men, who only served Jeffrey's whims, didn't have the guts to face the heat themselves. Even Crystal was the same. When I was about to leave, she grabbed my arm, not letting me go. You hurt him, you have to apologize to them. No way. I yanked my arm free and drove off, ignoring her angry shouts. Why would I stay and apologize? Am I a fool? Before I even got home, Jeffrey's mom called, furious. I just turned off my phone. The next day, when I turned it back on, there were over 100 missed calls. And there were several messages on WeChat. I opened Jeffrey's chat. Edwina, why aren't you answering? It was just a joke. You're over it, right? Why make such a big deal out of it? Why haven't you replied yet? Are you really breaking up with me? Fine, if you want to break up, go ahead. But don't regret it. After reading Jeffrey's messages, I blocked him. If he said it was over, then it would be over, no turning back. I wasn't someone who threw around the word break up, and after 5 years of being with him, I had never said it once. Throughout this relationship, I had always accepted his immaturity and lack of boundaries with women. I had fallen for him because of his boldness and defiance. In the 5 years we had been together, he hadn't changed at all, and honestly, the qualities that attracted me to him still did. So, I accepted that he wouldn't change for me. But what I didn't accept was how his friends and family saw my kindness as submissiveness. I had never cared about how others viewed me, only how Jeffrey treated the relationship. During our time together, he had his fun, but he never crossed the line with other women, and that was enough for me. But now, he had crossed my bottom line. He knew I would never accept him making a joke out of our love, yet he treated this proposal like a bet. Clearly, in his mind, I was just a fool who would always be there for him. He was waiting for me to regret it? Well, he could keep waiting. But maybe I never truly knew Jeffrey. After using our relationship as a joke, he also used my job to threaten me. As soon as I got to work, before I even sat down, HR was at my desk, telling me I'd been fired. Seeing the helpless expression on HR's Frida's face, I couldn't help but ask, "Are you serious?" Couldn't be more serious. The general manager notified me late last night. She glanced quickly toward the door, making sure no one was eavesdropping, then lowered her voice to continue. "I heard that it was Jeffrey who requested your termination. Did you offend him? Maybe you should go apologize to him. If he calms down, your job might be saved. You know, you're so capable, the company doesn't want to let you go. It's just that Jeffrey and his family have too much power locally. If you offend them, the company is afraid of retaliation. So, you get what I mean." As she spoke, I saw a curious gleam in her eyes. No one at the company knew about my relationship with Jeffrey. I didn't want to mix work with my personal life, and I definitely didn't want the achievements I'd earned through hard work to be reduced to nothing more than sleeping your way to the top. Taking a deep breath, I looked into Frida's hopeful eyes and told her I needed to make a phone call. "We'll talk more about the termination when I get back." Frida thought I was going to call Jeffrey. She immediately gave me a thumbs up, encouraging me, "Good luck. When it's time to humble yourself, you do it. You can totally do it. I'll be waiting for your good news." Humble myself? I was definitely going to humble myself. But not to Jeffrey. I was going to my dad. As soon as the call connected, I jumped in. "Dad, I've decided to come back and take over the family business." My dad's first response was, "Did you get dumped?" "No." "Good. If I got dumped, I wouldn't be able to show my face. Anyway, hurry up and come back. I'll hold a board meeting so you can make your debut." "Dad, let's talk about coming back later. I want to start with the branch office in a city. Let me practice first." "What's so great about a small company? Don't give me that start from the bottom nonsense. Come back, and I'll personally teach you how to run the company. I'll make sure you can manage it independently by the end of the year. I've been wanting to retire and travel the world with your mom for a while now." If anyone at the company heard my dad say that, they'd be in an uproar. A small company? That's the second largest company in a city, ranked in the global top 500. Many people would be dying to get in. Jeffrey's family owns the top-ranked company in a city. Because the two companies' business directions are different, Jeffrey hasn't been able to suppress us in a city, and the relationship between our companies is actually quite good. That's probably why Jeffrey had the manager fire me without even offering an explanation, just telling HR to handle the termination and compensation. Thinking about this made a fire rise in my chest. I said firmly, "If you don't agree, I won't come back." All right, let's compromise. I'll give you 3 months. After 3 months, you have to come back, no matter what." 3 months? I calculated in my head. 3 months was more than enough for me to wrap up everything I was working on. Fine. Now, have headquarters send an internal memo to the executives at the branch. I'm hanging up now. Hold on, don't hang up yet. I have one more condition. You need to meet that guy, Hubery. The name Hubery immediately brought to mind a handsome, serious-looking face, like that of a strict school disciplinarian. I gritted my teeth. Fine, my dear Dad, I'll cooperate with whatever you arrange. It wasn't really up to me to refuse. After all, when I turned 18 and became an adult, I made an agreement with my family. Either I follow their plan, study abroad, complete my education, come back, take over the family business, and marry as they see fit, living a life they mapped out for me, or I give up the family name, live my own life, and set a goal of earning $1 billion on my own before I turn 30, still inheriting the family business in the end. I was young and reckless, so I chose the second option. Now, I'd finally figured out that in the adult world, you can't afford to make rash choices, you have to take everything. When I returned to Frida's office after the call, I caught her staring at her computer screen, looking utterly shocked. Wow, you've been hiding your true self. No, wait, actually, it's boss. I smiled, not explaining further. Keep this quiet for me, okay? Of course. Alright, I'm going back to work now. I didn't plan to shake up the company's upper management. After all, the people who've managed to keep this company in second place in a city are competent. Besides, I'd been working here for a while and had kept my identity hidden. I knew all the key people and how things ran in every department. Anyone who wasn't up to the task had already been reported to headquarters and dealt with long ago. As soon as I got back to my desk, the most gossip-hungry colleague in my department, Harriet, came over. You helped the company land a huge deal last time. Did Frida call you because they're giving you a promotion and raise? She asked loudly, and suddenly, everyone in the department stopped working and tuned in to listen. I stared at her, speechless. I'd long gotten used to Harriet's straightforward, no-filter ways, but she still managed to leave me speechless. She was waiting for my response, but before I could come up with an excuse, I heard a familiar, smug voice behind me. Oh. You just got fired. You must be feeling so upset, right, Edwina? I turned around to see Crystal's smug face. Harriet stepped forward. Edwina got fired? No way. Who are you? I've never seen you in the company. Sorry, I should have introduced myself first. I'm Crystal, and the company assigned me to take over Edwina's project. I'll be working with you all from now on. Please take good care of me. Crystal beamed, casting flirtatious glances at the male colleagues. She thought that would win their favor, but it only made the male colleagues, who had been quietly watching the drama, angry. How can the company fire Edwina? Who told her to offend the wrong person? You can't put the whole company at risk just for one person. Anyone Edwina offends must be a terrible person. Crystal didn't realize it, but her comments were being laced with hidden barbs, and she shot an angry glare at the male colleague who had spoken up. From what I knew of Crystal, she was the type to use Jeffrey's name to throw her weight around. The daughter of a housekeeper, she'd learned to read people early on and sweet-talked her way into Jeffrey's circle, becoming the pet of the guys in his group. Now that she failed to turn my colleagues against me, she had no one on her side, so she was trying to drop hints about her relationship with Jeffrey, hoping to intimidate others and get them to suck up to her. I used to ignore her antics. But now? I was done letting her get in my way. I asked her, "Are you sure I've been fired?" "Of course I'm sure," she replied, then mockingly added, "You don't seriously think you're going to hang around the company, do you?" She even walked up to my desk, and when she saw the succulent plant next to my computer, a flash of jealousy crossed her eyes. Her hand itched to throw the plant into the trash can. "This desk is going to be mine now," she said. "You sure have a lot of junk here. Looks like I'll need to disinfect the place." For once, I agreed with her. "You're right. You threw away trash, and the area you touched should be sanitized." Crystal, unable to come back from that, looked furious and raised her hand, as if to slap me. I quickly grabbed her hand. "Next time you want to hit someone, try to move faster." I pushed her away, and she immediately pretended I had shoved her to the ground. She sat there, helplessly crying as if she were the poor victim of some collective bullying. This left the rest of the department looking around awkwardly. They were all exchanging glances, wondering if they should help Crystal up. After all, it's not nice to let someone sit there crying. Just then, the general manager's voice came from the doorway. "Why is everyone standing around? Don't you have work to do?" As soon as the GM spoke, everyone rushed back to their desks, pretending to be busy. Crystal was still on the floor, and when she saw the GM walk in, she cried even harder. The GM ignored her and glanced at me. "Both of you, come to my office." Crystal thought the GM was going to stand up for her, so she immediately got up and followed him, trying to stay ahead of me. As she passed me, she whispered in a tone only the two of us could hear, "Let's see how cocky you are now. You'll be the one crying later." I wasn't about to cry. However, when she heard the GM tell her that the company wasn't firing me, and praised my abilities while suggesting she learn from me, she really did cry this time. After she left, only the GM and I were left in the office. Just a second ago, the GM had been full of authority, but now, he was smiling at me like a Cheshire cat. He was about to speak, but I beat him to it. "You don't need to act like this. I understand your situation. The company is the same as before, and as for my position, please keep it confidential. That's all, I'll leave now." When I returned to my desk, I saw Crystal sitting in the far corner, her eyes red. I sat down and looked at the succulent plant in the trash by my feet, drifting into memories. This plant was a gift from Jeffrey. It had an abstract painting of a couple on it. 3 years ago, I graduated but refused Jeffrey's offer to join his family's company and chose to stay at my own. I also didn't want Jeffrey to reveal our relationship, but after I joined this company, several male colleagues, who knew I had a boyfriend, tried to pursue me. Jeffrey got jealous and sulked for a long time, no matter how I tried to comfort him. I thought our relationship might be coming to an end, but then Jeffrey brought me this plant and insisted I put it in the most visible spot on my desk to declare my territory to the male colleagues. He had initially wanted me to take care of red roses, but because everything I took care of died, he chose the hardiest, easiest to care for succulent instead. I always complied with Jeffrey's wishes, as long as they didn't involve any principles. Back then, I was sure Jeffrey loved me. Maybe people change. There were also other little trinkets Jeffrey had made himself on my desk, but I threw them all into the trash. As I threw them, I caught out of the corner of my eye that Crystal had taken out her phone to snap a picture. I could guess who she was sending it to. Sure enough, right after I finished throwing everything away, my phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I was certain it was Jeffrey. His original number had been blocked. After thinking about it, I still decided not to pick up. It was working hours, and work always came first. I grabbed the documents and told my team to meet in the conference room in 10 minutes. 3 months might sound long, but there was a lot of work to be done. If I didn't manage it well, we might not make it in time. I got so busy that the workday ended before I knew it. Crystal had been sitting all day, her face darkening with each passing hour. She blocked my way at the company's entrance. "You think you can bully me at work and I'll just give up, right?" "You're overthinking things," I replied. "Who has time to bully you? I've got work to do, and I still have overtime." "You're being way too dramatic. You didn't include me in the meeting, didn't assign any tasks, and the others in the department are ignoring me. It's because you look down on me as the daughter of a housekeeper, right? You've been excluding me since you and Jeffrey were together, misunderstanding my relationship with him and treating me as a rival. Now that you've broken up, you still won't leave me alone. This job is something I worked hard for. Please, can you stop targeting me?" Crystal suddenly poured out all her grievances. She had tearful eyes and looked pitiful. If I wasn't mistaken, Jeffrey was nearby. "You're bullying Crystal again," Jeffrey's disappointed voice came from behind. I had lost count of how many times I'd been through this scene. We've explained, communicated, argued, and had cold wars. Each time, we thought it was resolved, but it always left a lingering issue that would eventually explode in our relationship. My disappointment with Jeffrey wasn't without cause. But I had been too attached to the Jeffrey who used to only have eyes for me, which is why I had been reluctant to break up. Now, looking at how he was getting angry with me over Crystal, I realized just how foolish I had been. People were already starting to recognize Jeffrey at the company entrance. I didn't want to argue here in front of everyone, and I had no words left for him. I turned to leave, but Jeffrey grabbed my wrist. "Don't go. I gave him a cold, emotionless look. Let go. In response to my indifference, Jeffrey's face showed confusion for a brief moment, followed by a panic in his eyes. But quickly, he regained his composure and said, I've been calling you all day. Why didn't you pick up? I was confused. Why should I pick up? Did I tell you to call me? He was taken aback. You never used to hang up on me. I calmly reminded him, you're talking about before. Now, we've broken up. You're really going to break up over something this small? Is proposing with a bet something small to you? That doesn't mean you should break up over it. Besides, you've already vented your frustration. Can't you just let it go? I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Just as I was about to argue with Jeffrey, Crystal, who had been silently standing beside him the whole time, stepped in at the perfect moment, adding fuel to the fire. Just talk it out, okay? Don't fight because of me. It's my fault for not knowing better and making a bet with Jeffrey. If you want, you can slap me a few times to vent. As long as you don't break up with Jeffrey, I don't mind what you do to me. Crystal's words gave me goosebumps on my arms. I've been meaning to say this for a while now, can you stop talking to me? It's honestly pretty gross to listen to. If you like playing these female rivalry games, that's your business, but don't drag me into it. You're misunderstanding me again, Crystal said, her face filled with worry, tears streaming down her face. She tugged on Jeffrey's arm. Jeffrey, you need to explain this to her. Don't let her keep thinking the worst of us. Jeffrey looked visibly moved and seemed ready to speak. Crystal then doubled down, if you really won't believe me, I'll leave a city, go far away. I promise I'll never show up in front of you again. Just stop arguing with Jeffrey, okay? Without thinking, Jeffrey's objection came out immediately, how could you leave a city? Where would you even go? But if I don't leave, she's going to break up with you. Crystal wiped her tears and forced a smile, don't worry about me, Jeffrey. Jeffrey looked even more worried now, his gaze filled with reproach. I was honestly at a loss for words. These two were really putting on a show. Fine, I smiled at Crystal, so when exactly are you leaving, Miss Crystal? Crystal didn't respond right away, but Jeffrey was quick to jump in. Don't be too much, I never realized you were this unreasonable. She's the one who brought it up, what does it matter if I'm unreasonable? If you don't need your ears, you can donate them. But how can we actually let her leave? Why not? Because. Jeffrey couldn't finish his sentence. I stepped in to provide the answer, because you can't bear to let her go. You want both, don't you? You're dating me while playing around with her, pretending it's some innocent sibling relationship. Jeffrey, I used to think you just liked to have fun, but now I see I was wrong. You two actually make a perfect match. Seriously, I hope you both stay together forever. The last words I said to Jeffrey were sincere. I yanked my arm away from him and walked off without looking back. Jeffrey tried to stop me again, I didn't, it's not what you think. Don't touch me. This time, I avoided his hand and didn't give him another chance. My rejection was clear, and Jeffrey froze for a moment before his anger flared. Are you seriously going to be this heartless over a joke? Do you really think you'll find a better man than me after breaking up with me? Don't worry about that, someone like you, I'm sure even Edwina wouldn't be interested in you anymore. A mocking male voice interrupted our conversation. I turned around to see who had spoken. When I saw his face, I was taken aback. Who are you? Jeffrey shot a hostile look at the stranger who had appeared. The man was already standing next to me. Ignoring Jeffrey, he focused on me, a slight smile on his lips, and said, I'm Edwina's admirer. Only then did he look at Jeffrey, giving him an almost cruel handshake, I'm Hubery. Thanks to you, Edwina's ex, if you hadn't mistaken something worthless for a treasure, I wouldn't even have a chance to pursue Edwina now. Jeffrey's face turned beet red from rage. He lunged forward, ready to fight Hubery. Crystal reacted quickly, throwing herself in front of Jeffrey and grabbing his arm, whispering urgently in his ear, calm down, that's Hubery. His family, we can't afford to offend them. Even though she whispered, both Hubery and I could hear clearly. Hubery mocked him outright with a sneer, how pathetic. Jeffrey, humiliated by the insult, was beyond furious and tried to break free of Crystal's grip to hit Hubery. Crystal struggled to hold him back, shouting, stop. I stood by, watching with clear eyes. Jeffrey's strength was more than enough to break free from a woman shorter than him, but as Hubris said, he was weak. You've always had terrible judgment. Hubris suddenly spoke up in the silent car. I had been staring out the window, lost in thought. It's been years, and he's still got that sharp tongue. I remember him being quiet, always the silent type. If someone spoke 10 words, he'd respond with one, if we were lucky. Why aren't you talking? Can't stand me talking bad about him? I frowned, irritated by his snarky tone. Hubris, can you just speak normally? It felt off talking about my ex with my future husband. Hubris, however, misinterpreted my words, his tone growing more intense. Don't tell me, you're still not over him? To be fair, my memory isn't that bad. I haven't lost my memory, so no, I haven't forgotten him. I thought my explanation was pretty spot on. It's true, I've got a great memory. I remember things from when I was 3. How could I forget someone I spent 5 years with? Hubris, clearly understanding this, fell silent again, going back to his usual quiet self. It wasn't until we sat down at a restaurant in a private room that he spoke again after ordering food according to my taste. When are we getting married? Personally, I think the sooner the better. Hubris said this as casually as if commenting on the weather. I was speechless for a few seconds, trying to process what he said. If I'm not mistaken, Hubris, the same age as me. I'm not in a rush, why is he? Before we talk about marriage, there's one condition I want you to agree to. Hubris frowned, go ahead. We're getting married for the sake of family ties, there's no love involved. So I won't expect you to be loyal to this marriage. But I do expect you to manage your women outside of this, don't let them show up in front of me. And lastly, don't have any illegitimate children. I was interrupted midway by Hubris. Stop. What do you think I am? A man should have the moral standard of being loyal to his wife. He paused and looked at me, then added pointedly, of course, women should too. And just because we have no romantic foundation doesn't mean we can't build one. If you like Jeffrey's type, I'm willing to change. By the end, his expression was conflicted, but his eyes were determined. A week had passed since my unpleasant conversation with Hubris. Halfway through dinner that day, he was called away by a phone call. I later found out that morning, my dad had met with his dad to finalize the marriage alliance, and Hubris just happened to be there. The alliance was settled that morning. Hubris had flown to a city immediately after. He hadn't even arranged his work schedule before coming, so he was urgently called away. In the week that followed, Hubris asked 4 times a day, what are we having for breakfast? What about lunch? And dinner? Always trying to strike up a conversation. To be honest, I couldn't figure out his angle. He was starting to act like one of those love-struck types. What was even scarier was how he kept performing like a proud peacock, showing off in various ways. After a week, even I, as slow as I am, realized he was pursuing me. But why? Our families were already forming an alliance, he didn't need to do all this to win me over. When I asked him that, his expression was more serious than I'd ever seen it. He told me very earnestly that it was necessary, that I was going to be his wife, the one he'd spend the rest of his life with. He wanted our marriage to be based on love, not on any benefits. After he said that, the next thing he asked was whether I had decided on when we would get married. Didn't he think his words were contradictory? I had no energy to criticize him. Because of his actions, all the plans I had prepared for our post-marriage life, where we'd pretend to be a couple while living separate lives, were all for nothing. What I needed to focus on now was how to respond to Hubris' feelings. To be honest, I felt nothing but indifference toward Hubris. In fact, I found it a bit troublesome. The passionate feelings Hubris had for me, Jeffrey had once given me too. But in the end, he changed. Any kind of love can change. What made it even more bothersome was that for the past week, Crystal had been shamelessly using Jeffrey's name to act superior at work. That day, when Jeffrey and I had a fight downstairs at the company because of Crystal, some of the employees saw us. At first, no one knew the nature of our relationships. My colleagues couldn't get any details from me, so they immediately went to Crystal to get information. Crystal, pretending to be clueless, claimed that she and Jeffrey had grown up together as friends. Of course, she didn't tell the full truth. For instance, when they asked what my relationship with Jeffrey was, she skillfully avoided the question, saying that the argument between Jeffrey and me was all because of her. She didn't say I was bullying her, but her eyes were red when she spoke. Everyone could fill in the blanks. It didn't take long for them to assume I bullied Crystal, which led Jeffrey to argue with me. The conclusion was that I had offended Jeffrey. Somehow, rumors spread that Jeffrey had asked higher-ups to fire me, but because I had powerful connections behind me, even the company president was afraid to act against me, so I was still allowed to stay. Soon, the gossip morphed into the idea that my good performance over the years was all because I'd slept my way to the top, and that I'd even slept with company executives. It wasn't hard to guess that Crystal was behind all of it. She had been at the company for a week, doing no work at all, but was great at expanding her social circle, forming factions, and spreading rumors. The general manager privately asked me if I wanted Crystal to leave the company. I refused. She was shamelessly refusing to leave, but if it was just for a job, that wasn't Crystal's style. Everything she could get from Jeffrey was worth far more than her salary here, many times over. So I didn't believe she didn't have any other plans. To find out more, I had someone investigate who she'd been in contact with recently, and it turned out she had been in touch with people from a rival company of ours. And the project our company was competing for was the high-profile S-level project that my team was handling. When I thought of this, I couldn't help but sneer. She'd better not try anything, or she'll regret it. Crystal still didn't know that I had found out about her dealings with our competitor. She had been spreading rumors about me at the company, writing anonymous letters accusing me of inappropriate behavior, claiming I was messing around with male colleagues. She even sent photos of me in compromising positions with senior management, taken from awkward angles when we discussed work. She thought that by doing this, she could force the company to fire me. What she didn't know was that every single one of her complaint emails came directly to my inbox. I watched as her calm demeanor at the start slowly turned into anxiety. Even her complaint letters had gone from 1 a day to 3 a day. And every day, she made sure to bring up Jeffrey in front of me. Since she joined the company, she's been wearing different bags, different jewelry, and top-tier outfits every day. None of this is something a maid's daughter could afford. And every day after work, I'd see Jeffrey picking her up. Every time he saw me, he acted like he didn't see me, treating Crystal with an exaggerated tenderness. If he thought this would make me jealous, I could only say, there was no need for that. Their daily show of coming and going together only fueled the rumors that they were dating. People at the company became increasingly flattering toward Crystal. Except for my colleagues in my department. They grew more and more annoyed with Crystal, seeing her as a useless employee who wouldn't do any work and always shirked responsibility. As the bid deadline drew closer, Crystal finally lost her composure. After Hubery returned to B-City, he worked overtime every day, squeezing 2 weeks' worth of work into 1 week. Once he finished, he gave himself a week off. He sent me a document. When I opened it, I saw it was a detailed 1-week dating schedule. The schedule was precise, down to the second. It was clear that someone who had never been on a date in his life had made this, with no idea of what real life was like. The first date was at a popular couple's restaurant. So today, for once, I finished work on time and Crystal, who had been watching me closely, followed behind. In the elevator, it was just the two of us, and she stopped pretending. "I underestimated you," she said. I ignored her. She continued, "What's with the attitude? You're no better than me, using men to climb the ranks. What right do you have to look down on me?" I couldn't understand, so I asked her sincerely, "Is this all you can think about?" I had been wanting to ask her for a while, how could she not feel ashamed for spreading rumors about me? Apparently, she didn't feel ashamed at all. Crystal didn't think there was anything wrong. What's so noble about you? You act all high and mighty, but you're just like me, using men to get ahead. Jeffrey believes your story about breaking up with him over a bet, but if Hubery wasn't so well off, would you really have broken up with Jeffrey? I bet you were just waiting for the right moment to dump him. She got more and more worked up, her eyes filled with jealousy. But I didn't miss the small movement of her hand. She had pretended to play with her phone, but I saw her open the voice recorder app. Very clever, but her little tricks were obvious. The elevator reached the first floor, and I didn't want to waste any more time with her, so I walked out first. She, however, wouldn't let up, chasing after me. "Are you guilty? Admit it, you're just playing both sides." Jeffrey is so good, why didn't you cherish him? All you care about is money, right? I glanced at Jeffrey, who was waiting downstairs as usual, looking at Crystal with a protective gaze. Who knows best about playing both sides? Emotional cheating is still cheating. Jeffrey, who had been walking toward us, heard my words and opened his mouth to retort. When he saw me, he shut it, his face darkening. Edwina. Hubert called my name, walking quickly to my side. What's wrong? Are they giving you a hard time? He shot a sharp look at Jeffrey, as if he was ready to tear him apart if I gave him the signal. Jeffrey froze under Hubert's gaze. It was all so tiring. I shook my head and pulled Hubert along as we left. To my surprise, when we turned around, we bumped into each other again at the couple's restaurant, both of us ordering the same couple-set meal. When Jeffrey saw me in the restaurant, his expression was a mix of shock and disbelief. His gaze seemed to accuse me, as if asking how I could come to a couple's restaurant with Hubert. Crystal noticed this and immediately pretended to pull him to the seat they had reserved. But Jeffrey pushed Crystal aside and walked over to me. We need to talk, he said. Hubert, seeing this, immediately felt uncomfortable and grabbed my arm, ready to leave. I held him back with a look, signaling him to stay calm. Then I turned to Jeffrey and bluntly rejected him. There's nothing to talk about between us. 5 years of feelings, and you're really going to end it just because of a joke? He still didn't get it, it wasn't about the joke. Seeing me stay silent, Jeffrey stubbornly stared at me. It was clear that unless I made him give up, he'd keep dragging this on forever. I sighed and spoke calmly, Jeffrey, I don't mind being the one who invested more in our relationship. After all, love isn't about who gives more or less. What I mind is your lack of respect for it, how you trampled on my love for you. You've shown me who you really are, and you don't deserve my love. Do you understand? Jeffrey's face turned pale after hearing this. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but in the end, he just turned and fled. He may have left, but because of him, I lost my appetite and couldn't eat anymore. When Hubert drove me home, he suddenly said, I don't mind if I love you more in our relationship. I know you don't want to start a new relationship right now, and I can wait. As for marriage, whenever you're ready, we can get married. That night, after Hubert's words, my mom called. She said it was my dad who asked her to call. She told me that the arranged marriage with Hubert was off. What kind of joke was this? Then my mom asked how I felt about it. I had no strong feelings, so she scolded me. She was angry because, over the years, many eligible women from the same circle had chased after Hubert, but he hadn't looked at any of them. When my dad went to talk to Hubert's father about the marriage, he wasn't very confident at first. Hubert clearly wasn't someone who would just go along with an arranged marriage. But my dad thought that if he was going to find a man worthy of his daughter, it should be the best, so he went ahead. To his surprise, before my dad could even say much, Hubert agreed, beating his father to the punch. My dad said Hubert was so excited that they practically walked out of the door in sync. They all thought the marriage was a done deal. Then suddenly, Hubert told them he wasn't in a hurry and wasn't ready for marriage yet. Over the years, Hubert hadn't had any romantic relationships, and his family had even started to worry that he might grow old alone. They hadn't expected that he still had someone he liked. It was at that point they realized that Hubert and I had been classmates in high school. If I had listened to my family back then and gone abroad to study, I would have stayed his classmate in college too. But I digress. Anyway, my mom boldly guessed that Hubert had been single all these years because he secretly had feelings for me. She said if I let Hubert go now, I would never find a man who loved me more than he did. I thought they were overthinking it. Yes, Hubert and I were high school classmates, but we barely spoke during those 3 years. I don't think we exchanged more than 5 sentences. Back then, he was serious and aloof, always with a stern expression. When you talked to him, he would just nod. I thought he probably didn't like me, and I was a little sad about it. But I got over it because, let's face it, not everyone can be liked by everyone. And besides, there are also some weird people who treat money like dirt. If money can't make everyone love it, what's to say about me? So, when my mom said he'd been secretly in love with me all these years, I found it impossible. Absolutely not true. My rational mind was saying it was impossible, yet I couldn't help but daydream about it. That night, I had nightmares where Hubert kept chasing me, confessing his love. The next day, I had to use a thick layer of concealer to cover the dark circles under my eyes. You look tense. Did you not sleep well? Harriet was staring at my face. I'm not tense, what's there to be tense about? I denied it, feeling guilty. Harriet believed me. Right, it's just a bidding conference. Even though it's an S-level project, you've been to many of these before, so how could you be nervous? So that's what she meant. I thought she was asking if I knew about Hubert secretly liking me. Today was the day of the project bidding. Harriet and I went together to submit the proposal. When we returned to the office, we heard that Crystal had voluntarily resigned. She couldn't even pretend to put on a show properly? I'd noticed earlier in the morning that someone had been tampering with my computer. What she didn't know was that my computer's surveillance system activates as soon as it starts up. Every move she made when she secretly accessed my computer to copy the bidding document was recorded. As for why I didn't expose her, well, I was just waiting for the show to unfold. 3 days later, the bidding results were announced. As expected, our company had won. Right when the results were announced, Crystal's call came through. Bitch, you played me. You must have known I was going to steal the bid documents. How is that playing you? I just made a joke, and you're getting so mad about it? Crystal suddenly screamed in fury. You're vile. How could you be so cruel? You've ruined my life. Heh, don't blame me for what's entirely your own doing. You brought this on yourself. I knew exactly why Crystal was so angry. Crystal had gotten involved with the CEO of a rival company. He promised her that if she could get her hands on our company's bidding documents and help him win against us, he would divorce his wife and marry her. For some reason, she actually believed him. She deliberately sabotaged my relationship with Jeffrey and convinced him to arrange for her to join my company, promising to explain things to me and make me reconcile with Jeffrey. Jeffrey, even after being played by her, was still trusting her. As for why Crystal did all this, it's not hard to guess. Jeffrey's parents didn't like her, even looked down on her, and would never allow her to be part of their family. Crystal knew this well. Even the wealthy second-generation men who appeared to treat her like a princess did so only because of Jeffrey. Of course, when I was dating Jeffrey, his parents had privately talked to me, telling me that I was just a passing fling for him. They wouldn't interfere, but they wouldn't approve of our marriage. They were very blunt about saying I wasn't good enough for Jeffrey. In this regard, Jeffrey's parents treated both me and Crystal the same. But Crystal was different from me. I hid my true background from Jeffrey, letting him believe I came from an ordinary family. In his parents' eyes, Crystal was even worse off than someone from an ordinary family. She was just a maid's child. If Crystal hadn't gotten into Jeffrey's circle and experienced the kind of luxury she would never have had access to otherwise, she might have been content with a more ordinary life. But now that she'd seen it, she couldn't accept settling down with an ordinary person and living a life of struggle. So she intentionally used Jeffrey's resources to meet the rich second-generation men she could get close to. She truly believed that being a mistress was not shameful. If a wife couldn't control her husband and wasn't loved, she should step aside. Her dream of becoming a rich man's wife was now completely shattered. I reported the theft to the police. Stealing important company documents is a violation of commercial secrets and theft, so the police are probably already on their way to find Crystal. Hubert's week-long vacation was almost over. For the past few days, Hubert kept up his usual routine of greeting me 4 times a day. But the so-called date planned was cancelled. He finally realized that dates couldn't really go as planned. There were always unexpected things that would throw his schedule off. Today, we had planned to go grocery shopping together and cook dinner at my place. As soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I saw Hubert waiting in the lobby. I was about to wave at him to say hi. He was walking toward me with a smile in his eyes. But suddenly, his smile was replaced by a look of shock and anger. "Run," he shouted at me, his pace quickening as he ran toward me. I barely registered what he said before my body acted faster than my mind, and I started running. I felt a sharp sting on my back. Then, as I watched him run past me, I couldn't help but stop. I turned around and saw Hubert kick a fully covered Crystal, sending her flying. A bottle of liquid in her hand spilled onto the floor, bubbling, and when her hand touched the liquid, it was instantly corroded, causing her to scream in pain. My hand hurts so much, help me. Hubery, his face like ice, didn't help her. Instead, he stepped on her hand where it was soaked in the liquid, and Crystal screamed louder in agony. Her hand was completely destroyed. It wasn't until the security guards arrived to stop her that Hubery let up. He walked over to me without a word and pulled me into his arms. I felt his body trembling slightly, and I heard him muttering, "Thank God, you're okay." Well, not exactly okay, it feels like a few drops of that liquid splashed on my back. It hurts a bit. I wasn't trying to kill the mood, but I was honestly scared of scarring. In the end, I did get scars. I was furious. That day, Crystal had prepared highly concentrated sulfuric acid, extremely corrosive. Even just a few drops caused my back to burn, leaving 4 small scars. Hubery blamed himself deeply for it. I did my best to comfort him, telling him it wasn't his fault. If he hadn't warned me, I probably would have gotten much worse. Just thinking about the possible consequences made me shudder. Crystal was really malicious. She thought I used my face to seduce men, so she was hell-bent on ruining my face. How wicked, so wicked. Thankfully, the law would punish her. Hubery even used some special connections to make sure she would be well taken care of in prison, ensuring that she would live a life worse than death from now on. I fully supported his actions. After the Crystal incident, the so-called March date was out the window, and my dad personally came to the company to take me back to B-City. When my dad, who's often featured in business news, showed up at the office, the whole place went crazy. When my colleagues found out my real identity as I handed over my work to them, they were in shock. Especially Harriet, she considered herself the office gossip queen, the one who could dig up anything. But she was defeated when it came to me, and it hit her hard. Back in B-City, because of the encouragement from both our families, the two families started meeting up regularly, and I spent more time with Hubery, getting to know him better. One time, after Hubery had too much to drink, I couldn't resist asking him why he used to hate me so much in high school. He hated me so much that even though he was kind to everyone else, he wouldn't even speak to me. Hubery looked like I'd hit a nerve, and he got so emotional that he lowered his head. He admitted he regretted not being brave enough back then. He really liked me, and every time I initiated a conversation with him, he was bursting with excitement, but he was so nervous that he couldn't speak properly. He was also afraid of letting me notice that he liked me, not wanting to cause me any trouble. So the more nervous he was, the stiffer his expression became, and the more rigid he was, the harder it was for him to speak. And that was that. After a few attempts where I tried to start conversations, and he was too nervous to speak, I never tried to talk to him again. Meanwhile, he secretly felt heartbroken for quite a while. By the time he finally mustered the courage to confess, he found me rejecting another guy's confession. That completely broke him. Afterward, he heard that my dad was planning to send me abroad, and so, despite having no original plans to study abroad, he gave up the chance to go to a prestigious domestic university and chose to go overseas. But in the end, I didn't go abroad. He managed to get through university abroad and turned down an offer from his professor to stay for grad school, then returned to China. And by then, I was with Jeffrey. It really was an exhilarating secret crush. The next day, when Hubery sobered up, he didn't remember anything he'd said while drunk. He still had no idea that his secret crush on me wasn't a secret anymore. The breakthrough in our relationship came when I took the initiative to suggest we try dating. A month later, both our parents set the date for our engagement and wedding. Our family's union was widely covered by the media. On the day we announced it, Jeffrey, who I hadn't heard from in ages, called me. He asked if I could give him another chance. He knew he'd made a terrible mistake before, but he couldn't live without me. I hung up to make my stance clear. But for a while after that, Jeffrey kept calling me from different numbers and even came to B-City to see me. I refused to meet him. Then, on the day of my wedding, he snuck in wearing a server's uniform. When he tried to enter the makeup room and was caught, he ignored the guards and rushed into the room, interrupting the makeup artist who was preparing my bridal look. He looked so different, much thinner, his face no longer holding the same youthful energy I used to like. Now all he showed was despair. He pulled out a ring, knelt down in front of me, and with tears in his eyes, asked me to marry him. He said he brought the family heirloom ring, one that could only be passed down to the wife, and this time his proposal wasn't a bet or a joke. He asked me if I could not marry Hubert, but marry him instead, so they could start over. Before I could even reject him, Hubert stormed in and dragged him away to give him a beating. When Hubert came back, he seemed calm, but I could tell he was nervously tapping his fingers. I grabbed his hand. "You're leaving marks on your nails. If you wear the ring later, it'll look bad. Don't do that anymore, okay?" Hubert nodded, holding me close and burying his head in my shoulder. I patted his back, reminding him, "All right, it's time for the wedding to start. Let's go." End of the story.